This is Dr. Jerome Corsi, and today it's Thursday. It's February 1st, February 1, 2024. I want to cover a few stories very quickly here before we get into extensive coverage of several stories in detail. By the way, Trump is beating Biden in battleground America states badly. No Republican in 20 years is polling as well as Trump is polling right now. He's surging. A couple other things I think are important. Jamie Dimon, who is the head of JP Morgan and Chase, is saying that the government debt is out of control. Spending in Washington is ridiculous. I'm going to cover that pretty extensively today because I'm convinced they're just printing money to steal it. He made these Jamie Dimon made these remarks at the Bipartisan Policy Center in Washington, and what he's saying is essentially that we are, in the 1980s, the debt was around 35% of gross domestic product. Today, the debt to GDP ratio is above 100. It's about 125%. He's saying it's projected to reach 130% by 2035. I think that's a low estimate. And this is ridiculous. He's saying this is a hockey stick, not the climate. That Michael Mann's is nonsense. That the climate has suddenly shot up extremely hot since the industrial age because we're burning hydrocarbon fuels. That's just nonsense. But that our debt has shot up dramatically since 1980 is the case. And what Jamie Dimon is saying is that a rebellion-type reckoning, a sudden deepening of the debt crisis as investors lose confidence in the government's ability to service its debts and start selling off U.S. treasuries, would be the worst possible way to do it. He said, it's a cliff. We see the cliff. It's about 10 years out, and we're going 60 miles an hour. Analysts at the University of Pennsylvania estimate that when the debt to GDP ratio hits about 200%, it will hit the point of no return when no amount of future tax increases on spending cuts could prevent the government from defaulting on its debts. Of course, modern monetary theory says, don't worry about it. We'll just issue a $34 trillion coin and we'll pay it off in one swoop with fake money. That's how the left thinks. Left has got a lot of bad ideas. That's just one of them. And I'm also noticing today that the electric vehicle company, one of these companies that was valued once at $13 billion, is now about bankrupt. And this whole thing was going to revolutionize. We're going to transition to wind and solar and electric cars. Yeah, well, that's all nonsense too. At any rate, according to Reuters, there's a Reuters report on that, and saying that the result of it, I guess the company was called Arrival, UK startup. Arrival is in desperate search of funding after being delisted from NASDAQ. And this was going to be the darling that was going to revolutionize the car industry with electric vehicles. After slashing its workforce by 50% last year, Arrival said it had received a lifeline 2 months ago in the form of a $50 million investment. But at the time of delisting, the company was reported to be worth only $20 million. This is ridiculous. According to Reuters, Arrival is talking to Ernst & Young Accounting to handle a bankruptcy filing if it can't secure more funding. Well, there we go. Solyndra all over again, like the Obama years. All these EVs and everything else, like the wind, solar, without government subsidies, it is not economically viable, and these things just close down. Okay, those are just things I'm noticing as I survey today's news, and the war in Israel is increasing in intensity along the Gaza Strip as Israel continues to root out Hamas. Hamas is really incapable of doing anything positive. I see that, there's a move in the United Nations to declare that we should recognize a state of Palestine, even though it doesn't exist. It's just recognizing Hamas, because the Palestinian Authority has no control over Hamas, and Hamas is really ruling on both Gaza, has been until recently. Now Gaza is being devastated. The tunnel network, although I don't think Israel is capable of eliminating. So it's going to be a dangerous place for a long time to come. Let's get into the stories I really want to cover today. The first one is this farmers' revolt in Europe is building, and I want to cover the truck convoy that's going on in the United States down to the border. So the story in Reuters, again, is that in the last 12 months, the cost of running a farm, they just picked a farm in particular in Southwest France, has increased by 35,000 euro. It's $38,000, driven up by increasingly expensive fertilizers, fuel, electricity, and pesticides. And so this is really, one of the farmers was quoted as saying, "My grandfather had 15 cows and 15 acres. He raised his kids, his families without any problem. Today, me and my wife have 70 acres, 200 sheep, and we can't even pay ourselves a salary." So again, these farmers are now doing blockades and pickets, blocking highways, because they're opposing the EU's drive to cut carbon dioxide emissions to zero. And we're 5 months away from elections in the European Parliament, and I think some of these farmers would just soon close down the Parliament of Europe altogether. They're throwing eggs, they're burning in the buildings. I mean, they're doing everything they can to indicate that they're sick of the EU. In France, support for the EU's common agriculture policy means that farmers, although politically conservative, historically have been more pro-European than the average voter, but that's turned around. And I see this trend going worldwide, where people are realizing that this green transition is just ideological nonsense. Carbon dioxide is not the turning knob of Earth's temperature. It's 0.04% of the Earth's atmosphere. It's a minor greenhouse gas. But because hydrocarbon fuel emits carbon dioxide, they demonize carbon dioxide. They saying it's going to cause us to be so warm the planet's going to be uninhabitable. This is all just nonsense. What is being reported today on climatedepot.com, and I think there's a new study out, was just published in one of the in a journal called Global Ecology and Conservation, is that the Earth is actually greening. Global greening is what's going on, and I've been saying this for a long. Carbon dioxide is plant food, so 7 times more area in the Earth is greening than browning. All studies around the world agree that the world has become greener since 1982. So if things are getting better with fossil fuels, why end them? 55% of global areas are greening and only 7% are browning. Carbon dioxide fertilizer is the dominant driver of greening for over 76% of the globe. Drought trends cannot overtake positive carbon dioxide fertilization effect. This is according to the article that was published in Science magazine. And I'm going to copy this out and do more about this. I think this is a really very important article. And what you're finding, it was published in Global. I'm looking at it right now. And global greening continues despite the increased drought stress since 2000. And the article starts, increases or decreases in remote sensing-based vegetation greenness are usually referred to as greening or browning. The carbon dioxide fertilizer, along with land management, determined that greening is dominant. I mean, this whole climate science, everything the left is doing right now, is ideologically insane. I'll cover more of this with Harvard again. We've got another scandal of plagiarism with one of these DEI representatives at Harvard. But let's stay in the theme right now, what's going on with the truckers. And this whole convoy, bring your campers, bring your cars, just join this convoy. That's the theme. And the website is takeourborderback.com. Takeourborderback.com. So on February 3rd, 2 days from now, It's going to be a rally in San Ysidro, that's California, in San Diego County. In Arizona, there's going to be a rally in Yuma, Arizona. The final destination is Riverside Drive in Yuma, Arizona. And in Texas, the final destination is the Cornerstone Children's Ranch in Eagle Pass, Texas. And all of these convoys are arriving in the evening on February 3rd. Next, I guess Arizona and Texas are arriving in the evening on February 3rd, but 9 to 11 a.m. the California is arriving. And if you go to takeourborderback.com, you can see the details of how it's going, plus some of the videos. They're also posting videos of the incident. They're also on Twitter, a lot of posting on Twitter, Rumble, the usual channels, Telegram, Discord. So there's a lot of notice on this, and it's going to hit the border. This is a major issue. You will not see it reported in the mainstream media. They're going to ignore this, which is what they do with any story the mainstream media does not want to cover. And again, that's a tragedy that we have mainstream media that is really censored. And people who are watching the nightly news on ABC, CBS, NBC have no idea what's really going on. And CNN, the list goes on. I want to cover a couple more stories here. This one, I think, is extremely important too. There's a very interesting review out on the global Central Bank Digital Currency. It was done by Nick GM Bruno, and this is on Doug Casey's International Man, which is internationalman.com. And what he's saying is that these central bank digital currencies enable all kinds of horrible totalitarian things. They allow governments to track and control every penny you earn, save, and spend. They're a powerful tool for politicians to confiscate and redistribute wealth as they see fit. Central bank digital currencies will allow central banks to impose deeply negative interest rates, which is you pay the bank for holding your money. You don't get interest on your savings. And all kinds of social engineering that they do. Let's say governments impose a lockdown over climate change, which is nonsense. And the CDC goes along with the World Health Organization, and they declare that the climate crisis is a health crisis. So they lock down the world or lock down large parts of the world. And then your central bank digital currency only applies to your 15-minute prison. As soon as you get outside that, you don't have any money. So contrived government crisis hits. And, we're in Truman Show. They have another big crisis somewhere in the world, or something happens, or disease X hits. That's the new World Health Organization designation of the next pandemic. Largely, these central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, they're calling them, central bank digital currencies, CBDC, their reaction to Bitcoin. Bitcoin was potentially very disturbing to the government's ability to create currency and control currency. And so the government's decided, well, we'll just make our central bank digital currency. We'll make money digital. It's nothing more than taking this stupid fiat dollar that's going to, be worthless as soon as they continue to print more money under the modern monetary theory. Modern monetary theory specifies that since we are the sovereign nation and we pay off our debt in sovereign currency, we can just pay off our debt in money we make up. Great idea, but it doesn't work long term. Long term, it causes hyperinflation. And the other thing about this is that you have to realize that when you have a central bank digital currency, it's not going to prevent countries. It's been shown in many different countries that have tried it. All you do is encourage the development of a black market. And that black market, the currency of dollars or whatever the new currency is, are traded. And you can't stop that because it's completely off the books. And I want to, with Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Argentina, Lebanon, many other countries have tried to restrict the US dollars. However, all that does is create a thriving black market. That's why I'm encouraging everybody to understand that this crisis that we're dealing with, things are not good. We're probably already in a recession. Food prices have increased regardless of what they report, up like 30%. Fuel prices are higher now than they ever were under President Trump. The new normal is that inflation is occurring. And I want you to get a copy of the free book, which I think is essential to get right here. It's How the Coming Global Crash Can Create a Historic Gold Rush. I wrote it with Dean Heskin, and he's the head of Swiss America. I've been dealing with Swiss America since 2004. Get a free copy of this book. Call the toll-free number 1-800-519-6268. I'm going to repeat that, 1-800-519-6268. And by the way, take a look at our website. There's quite a lot under sponsors on Swiss America, including this Walking Liberty $50 premium offer for first-time customers who can get up to 250 of these coins for just about what they're worth in silver. And you can see a lot of different places on our website where we make Swiss America available, including free newsletters and other materials that they have. Please do think about seriously getting some gold and some silver. This dollar is going to crash. The economy is going to crash. Biden may try to keep it going during the election season, but I don't know that that's going to be really possible. Okay, let's return to a few of the more stories that I posted here that I want to cover. There's a major story here about John Podesta. Now, John Podesta is one of my least favorite people. I guess he competes with John Kerry in that category for me. And now Podesta, who was appointed climate czar by Biden, I'm almost tempted to say Obama, because Biden, I think, is being run by Obama and Valerie Jarrett. Their house up in Washington. They bought a luxury house, and they're still operating as a team. Obama, Valerie Jarrett, a few of the others, Susan Rice, the usual crowd around Obama. But the story says that now Podesta has moved into the White House, and he's been assigned by Biden to take the $326 billion in the Green New Deal, which is, AKA the Inflation Reduction Act. Oh, what a joke. It's not reducing inflation at all. That money was provided by Congress. And so what Podesta is going to do is he's going to make sure that all of the Obama Biden donors get another payday. So that money is going to be distributed to green energy projects, just like under Obama, where the majority of the people Obama gave money for his act, which was that was back in 2008 and 9, when we were trying to come out of the subprime real estate crash. And if you'll remember, we had this act passed by Obama, creating shovel-ready jobs. Remember all that nonsense? And it ended up a lot of money. About 80 or 90% of it went to the people who were on Obama's 2008 campaign finance committee, raising money for him. Payday. So when all this money is coming out of Washington, and right now one of the big issues is whether or not Congress is going to issue or not more money for Ukraine and Israel, and the GOP is playing the typical game of saying, well, we'll hold this up until we get border security. Well, then they'll cave and they'll get another deal, and everybody will get their money, and the money will get stolen. By the way, James O'Keefe has got a story that I think is very compelling and very alarming as well, when he is pointing out that according to his newest whistleblower, who is an insider in Washington, a lot of the Washington staff hired by Republicans are really Democrats, and nobody seems to care. Some of them hate Trump Democrats. The other secret about a lot of the Washington staffers was the LGBT is rampant among them. And what this whistleblower is telling James O'Keefe is that the sex parties on Congress, sex and cocaine parties on Congress, involving Congress, men and women, and prostitutes, is rampant. And it's used, of course, to bribe or intimidate, get votes. So Nancy Pelosi's crowd and the Democrats can control a corrupt Congress, threatening to expose these completely perverted members of Congress. I mean, the idea that Congress is going and having sex parties, it's been happening forever. I mean, even Lyndon Johnson, Billy Saul Estes, and all the other things that they were doing, where they actually set up a brothel, and were running the brothel in conjunction with Lyndon Johnson. And they had all kinds of congressmen, senators there enjoying the brothel on government money. It was not, of course, they didn't have to pay for any of it because they were being videotaped, and just like the same thing that was going on, on this island that Epstein had with Clinton in the blue dress, his picture in the Epstein luxury condo, or whatever you want to call it, building, home in New York City. One of the better brownstone, or one of the better homes. A whole building is the home, and in New York City, expensive. Jeffrey Epstein was clearly also intelligence, and they also were using sex, in this case, pedophilia, in order to entrap politicians and others that they wanted to control on this globalist World Economic Forum scene. The corruption is massive. And by the way, I guess what is it? In Iowa, we've got someone being prosecuted because they beheaded Baphomet, the statue of the devil. Of course, if they had gone into a Catholic church and desecrated it, no one would have said a word. But now it's a hate crime because they dared to vilify Satan. This world we're living in an insane time right now. So Podesta is going to steal the money. John Kerry is out right now. John Kerry is a real gem. I mean, I opposed him in 2004 writing Unfit for Command with John O'Neill of Swiftboat Veterans campaign, speaking out against John Kerry for his disgraceful record in Vietnam, 3 Purple Hearts he did not deserve, walking around with his movie camera, filming himself for his presidential campaign. And then he went as Secretary of State. He was over making deals with Iran for Obama, and the deals allowed Iran to have nuclear weapons, just not while Obama was in office. And they sent over airplanes full of cash. And then as climate czar, John Kerry took his private airplane and went off to these climate summits and said, we got to stop using hydrocarbon fuels. It is just nonsense. And if you take a look at X, some of the people that I have been interviewing, and I'm going to do much more on this Dr. Kat Lindley, has been posing very, very good material. Also, this Wide Awake Media on X, it's right now showing a video of the Chinese premier, Li, I don't have a clue how you say his last name, Qiang. And he's talking about the need to transition to a low-carbon green economy while China is loading up on coal, emitting more CO2 than the entire developed world. Well, we've got to thank China for making the world greener. And it is not going to cause climate change. And this insanity, I guess, propagating bad ideas, having children do sex change operations, and the states, I guess Montana is starting to take away children, a 14-year-old who wanted a sex change operation, and the parents do not get to comment on it. The parents they'll take your child away, they'll mutilate the child's genitals for life, give you the child back. The child probably has not even reached puberty or understands what sex is all about, and the child is then ruined for life. This agenda has got to stop, and it's a satanic agenda, and we're seeing Satan rule even in the Biden White House. Also, that whistleblower, by the way, said that Biden's senior senility is advancing very rapidly, and Kamala Harris is disliked soundly throughout the White House. She's really never been liked, as far as I can tell, in politics at all. And a story out as well that the ESG investing is in decline. So some of the work done by visual capitalist Dorothy Neufeld has a graphic in which she's showing that the ESG, this green investing, is failing because the funds investing in green projects are underperforming. Obviously, they're investing in these EV projects and others that are failing. Wind farms are not getting built because without government money, private investment is just too risky. So overall, flows of $13 billion came out of ESG funds, I believe in 2023, as fund performance lagged behind conventional funds that were investing not for environmental, social, and governance ratings, but real investment dollars. And I'm trying to make ideological investing doesn't work. We could add it to the growing heap of dead duck Democratic, but wait, let's stop saying Democratic Party, this neo-Marxist party. We've got calling themselves social democrats. I think I'm going to call them social democrats from now on, which is what they really are, communists. So you've got a situation where people are realizing electric vehicles don't work. Wind and solar don't work. They get a little wind and solar, but it's not enough to make a difference. And the investing ESG doesn't work. And DEI doesn't work. That's the next story. So if we take a look here at the Harvard again, my alma mater, got my PhD, this genius place is becoming a laughingstock, going for Hamas and losing money. The anti-Semitism on campuses across the country is rampant because this agenda, the woke agenda, is anti-American. And so they unite with other forces that are anti-American, including Hamas, which wants to destroy Israel. Okay, so this woman here now, her name is Sherry Ann Charleston at Harvard, just like Harvard President Claudine Gay, who resigned over a plagiarism scandal. She too is this new one, this Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, not equality, equity. In other words, they want to be paid off because of the color of their skin. So this Sherry Ann Charleston plagiarized not only her dissertation, but a 2014 paper was entirely counterfeit, according to Peter Wood, the head of the National Association of Scholars and a former associate provost at Boston University. He says this research is fraud, pure and simple. So prior to joining Harvard in August 2020, Charleston was the chief affirmative action officer at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. After joining Harvard, she served on the staff advisory committee, which helped choose Claudine Gay as president. In December 2022, the Harvard Crimson reported that Charleston taught gender studies courses at the University of Wisconsin, while her bio describes her as, quote, one of the nation's leading experts in diversity, whose work includes, quote, translating diversity and inclusion research into practice for students, staff, researchers, postdoctorate fellows, and faculty of color. So we have to make sure we have the right mix of gender, color. These people have to be inclusion to the exclusion of whites, because that's white supremacy, and these are white race haters, and white is bad. We can hate white. I guess white isn't the color anymore. But you can include any of these other colors. And if there's shades of colors, I don't know how you do it, because human race is not a distinct shade of any color. There are always blends, and probably an infinite number of skin colors out there if you want to include the gradations. But so DEI it's a failed idea from the beginning, because you can never have DEI. So they tend to discriminate against whites and Asians. And if you're Black, of course, we've got to do the intersectionality, which I love to do. So intersectionality gives you points for how many times you're oppressed. So if you're a woman, 1 on the oppression score because you're a woman. We all know women are subjected to oppression by men. So then you're Black. That's 2. Then you're lesbian or transsexual. That's another. And then you had a past life as a pet. Well, there's 2 more. So if you have all these piling up, then you are really ranking high in DEI. It doesn't matter that you can only plagiarize your research. It doesn't matter that you can't think. You're ideologically bound up. These are things that I think are tremendously destructive. Now, I want to point out on the website one more thing, and that is, if you'll take a look, we have these e-pipes. And the e-pipes are saying here, like, for instance, the Truth Central. And Chris, if you can kind of go to it, we'll show the Truth Central. Just pull up one of the articles, and there you go. Right there is the Truth Central. That you passed it, Chris. Go back up. Right there. And then try connecting by the e-pipe, and where does it go? You'll see it. What it does is it brings in to your screen right there. Connect now on e-pipe. We're going to be offering some of these e-pipes and increasingly showing you what they are. It's a new technology. It permits you to create your own social network. And I think it's going to be used by a lot of 401c3s and 401c4s. We're going to use it with a program we're introducing with the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, NHCLC. It's the largest Hispanic pastors organization in the country. And we've created a program which is Habla con an MD, speak with an MD right there, which is a telemedicine service for Hispanics to connect with a Spanish-speaking doctor. There are not enough Spanish-speaking physicians in the United States. And we'll have a counterpart program, which is getrxmedsnow.com. These are launching right now. We'll have a telemedicine tab on the website, and I'll be doing a lot more broadcasting on these issues. There's getrxmedsnow.com. That'll permit you to get medications from a physician licensed in your state with a telephone call. You register, costs $69. The administrators will assign a physician to you. The physician will assign a time to call you. And then in about a 15-minute interview, you can have a medical diagnosis and prescription of medications, which will be electronically delivered to a pharmacy near you, because the software with your zip code is able to identify which pharmacies are near you. It's going to be a very convenient service. And the Habla con an MD, we interviewed Roberto Albino yesterday. We posted it on CloutHub. He is the director of the chapters for the NHCLC. And we have over 127,000 views on that podcast as of now. I'm going back into telemedicine. We're going to be doing much more on this in the near future. I want to wrap up. We've covered a lot of ground today. In the end, God always wins. God's going to win here too. I know it seems dystopian and dark. I know it seems like the world is in confusion and insanity. And it is, because we've allowed Satan to run rampant. In the spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14, I urge you to let's get down on our knees and ask God, repent. We want to repent for letting the world get to this point. We've killed too many babies in the womb, chopped them up. And now the neo-Marxist Social Democrats, the Democratic Party, which is communist, wants to have late-term abortion. Well, that means you could let the baby get just about to be born and harvest its organs. Again, these are the insane things that are being contemplated in a country that was once dedicated to God, and God we trust, and today seems to be much more enamored with Satan. And the pedophilia is rampant. This border is out of control. If you note, the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference in the interview yesterday was saying we need to secure the border. No one wants the criminals, the drug cartels, the children that are coming unaccompanied and going into sex slavery, coming across that border. And that's what this convoy, this convoy heading towards border crossing positions in California and in Texas is showing. And I think if we look at this, we can see that the country's had enough of this woke agenda. It's insanity. You know, you don't know what your gender is. Well, you have to use the right pronouns. Who cares? Someone is that messed up about who they are and they want to mutilate their genitals. They need psychiatric help. And their parents need psychiatric help, but the parents permit it. The states want to grab power. We are in a world right now today where the governments have learned how to run a Truman Show, create a crisis, and then solve that crisis with people being disoriented and in fear, locked down, whatever, and the government gets more power. The World Economic Forum, Harari says there's too many useless people, billions of useless. When they start talking about useless people and depopulation, we begin to see that their agenda, taking away farms and carbon dioxide, all these issues, the entire climate change movement is a depopulation movement. That's the major theme of my book. You know, the truth about energy, global warming, and climate change is why everything I'm doing now, this is the Truth Central. The truth about energy, global warming, and climate change. The truth about neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy. The truth is the first thing we have to shine the light on this evil, the light of truth on this evil, and it will go back into the satanic darkness. We are going to have a climactic battle here with Satan, and we've been talking with, presenting Archbishop Vigano, who understands this message very clearly. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Today is Thursday, February 1st, 2024. We will be back tomorrow. We're broadcasting podcasts every weekday at thetruthcentral.com. You can find me on X at CorsiJerome1. We have a Substack, and we're posting new things. We'll post some new things today on neo-Marxism on my Substack, which is JeromeCorsiPhD.substack.com. Thank you for joining us. God bless.